Thank you and welcome to Setting the Pace with Tribeca and Dr. Joe Pace. Dr. Joe Pace from the Pacific Institute Education Initiative. How you doing today, Dr.
Good,
Pace?
I'm doing good. Good to be here.
And I'm Richard McCulloch. I'm the president of Tribeca. And today, what we're going to be talking about is the psychology of admissions. And as you all should know, Dr. Joe Pace, in addition to being chairman of the Education Initiative at the Pacific Institute, he's also a performance psychologist. So this is right up your alley, right, Dr. Pace?
I'm here for you.
All right, man, let's talk about admissions.
Okay.
You know, as a marketing company, one of the things that we always have to be aware of is the fact that we work very hard to generate student interest to our client schools. Then, once the student has expressed that interest, it's up to the admissions department of the different institution to get that student enrolled. Today's admissions landscape is a lot different than when I started. Not to date myself too bad or make myself look too ancient. We didn't even have computers when I started to do admissions. There was no caller ID, so when you made a phone call, you're more likely we're going to get somebody that picked up the phone. But today's admissions landscape is a lot different. And I thought it might be good for us to start to kind of deconstruct what do you believe are some of the great traits for an admission representative to be successful. So if you had to summarize, what do you think are some of the core elements of the effective admissions mindset?
Yes, I think first of all that a person in admissions has to have what I call an intelligent heart. They need the IQ, but they also need the heart. And I believe that when a student signs up at a college, school, or university, theoretically they're buying into the relationship with that representative.
Correct.
That person has to be believable, trustworthy, connect with the student, because if you think about it, they don't even know they know about the major or the curriculum, but they have not met the instructors yet. So they're basing their enrollment on how they connect with the admissions representative.
That's true.
Yeah. And if they have that intelligent heart, the idea is, I believe too, then in many of our schools, in a way we provide such noble purposes. We help the students get into the school. We help them learn something for gainful employment. We place them, and then we change their lives.
Correct.
And so, to me, it's a very noble purpose, and it starts with the admissions representative. I always used to say that the admissions representative is the student's first love, because even at graduation, and I think every employee in the school should go to graduation because it's a big celebration. Many of these students, God bless them, bring 50 people because it's many of them that's their first in the family to graduate.
Right, from higher education.
And I think they'll go right to the admissions person first because they're going to say, it's because of you that I'm even here. And I think that's key, that admissions people realize how important they really are.
Right. And I think, to your point about the intelligent heart and rapport building, I think that's extremely important, definitely in terms of, introducing the prospective student to the school. But, sometimes what can happen, and when I go on campuses and meet with some admissions people, sometimes what happens is that they spend so much time building rapport and that they're not at the same time being very articulate in the value proposition of the school. So, and I was guilty of this as a new rep. I would sometimes, spend so much time because I'm a friendly person. I would get to know the person, but they wouldn't start school because what I had really done was make a friend. I didn't actually make a student. How does one balance that attention to the intelligent heart with also being able to articulate the value proposition of the school so that that person sees the value of enrolling and starting in that school?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. One of the things we teach at the Pacific Institute is words trigger pictures that give you emotions and feelings. You need the emotions and feelings to connect. So, just reading a script or the IQ side, the intelligent part of the intelligent heart, is learning, the courses, or what you might refer to as the products sometimes. But I'm telling you, that's not why students sign up. They sign up because of the relationship with the representative. That person represents the entire institution. And I feel like the words we use, it's the idea of using the correct word at the right time to create the right picture. Now, how do you do that? Well, part of it is you have to also be within your own personality and your own style. You can't really fake it, because people pick it up. They pick up the authenticity right away, and they can tell whether or not you're really being open, and you're more concerned about making the enrollment that day than you are caring for that student's well-being.
Correct.
So you have to be very perceptive, and I think too, when they walk into the school, things they see when they first walk in already is in the subconscious, and they say, this reminds me of high school, or nobody's paying attention to me, or that student, they're not look like me, and I don't know if I fit in here.
Right.
That's a huge area.
Right. And so I guess it puts a lot of onus on, and this is where I think at times management needs to understand that the role that people play in the admissions department, they have to balance many different things. They have to be able to communicate in a friendly manner. They've got to engage, but at the same time, they have to have substance in what they're presenting in terms of the school. Today, we're talking about the psychology of admissions, but we've done these series of videos because we want to have higher education conversations. Many of the topics we discuss tend to focus on career-focused education, but at the end of the day, any type of higher education can benefit from hopefully what we're having conversations about. And one of the things that I want to bring your attention to as we continue the conversation is that if you haven't had a chance, please visit our joint venture, which is www.focusonstudents.com. That's a place where the Pacific Institute and Tribeca, we're working together to collect student stories that really reflect the motivations and expectations of students that have chosen different career education paths to realize their careers. And we're very happy to be partnering with the Pacific Institute and Dr. Pace on that. So let's get back to the subject at hand, the psychology of admissions. So one of the things that's important, I think, for a lot of the admission reps to understand, and representatives and professionals in the admissions field to understand, is that I think there's part of your role as an admissions representative is not only to enroll the student, but to prepare them for success. And what that means is that I think you have to be able to let that prospective student understand what's going to be required to be successful in the school. And I think sometimes admissions people may be a little reticent to get too into that, because it might be, what if the person doesn't feel like they're prepared or ready? How do you think we can better prepare our admission representatives to not only enroll students, but prepare them for success?
Yes, I think that a relationship is key, and that they have to feel it, that my best interest, we have our best interests in mind. Now, it's a mindset that admissions reps need to have besides just enrolling the student. It has to do with how do we support these students, many of which are first generation going to college, okay? So sometimes I believe that we become parents, grandparents, brothers and sisters to some of these students who don't have maybe the support at home. And so it's more than just, showing them the curriculum and talking to them about, what their career is going to be. It's movement quarter to quarter, term to term, based on the picture they have. So we're constantly painting pictures for them. And I believe that the admissions rep needs to stay connected to the faculty. And because these students, the first person they met was the admissions rep.
Yeah.
And I think that what's important is some of the social benefits we help students with. I mean, in a way, if you think about what we do, we're kind of a social service along with helping them get gainfully employed. We train them. But I think deeper in this whole intelligent heart piece is the heart. It's about the heart.
Right.
And I think the admissions reps that have the heart, that truly want to help students, it just shines. I mean, right away they know, and they'll have more enrollments than anybody else.
Yeah, and I definitely think that we have to look at the educational offerings at our institutions in a holistic manner. And, even though there could be some pushback in terms of, are they social service people? And, are we here to, fix all their life
Right.
problems. Not necessarily. However, to not acknowledge that we're dealing with first generation learners. We're dealing with people who may not have necessarily had the best high school experience. They're not necessarily cut out to thrive in a didactic classroom environment. I think there needs to be a certain level of empathy, a certain level of understanding of learning styles that your admission representatives don't necessarily have to focus on totally, but be aware of.
That's right.
For example, we talked about painting a picture. You brought that up again. That's a theme that's come up in the past. That connection between the educational offerings and what the admissions representative knows. I call it, there's a difference between product knowledge and product understanding. How important do you think it is for the admissions team to have product understanding?
Oh, critical. They need to know, for example, in the medical assisting program, what type of courses, what's going to go on in there. Give them a picture of what to expect. And sometimes it needs to be very realistic. I mean, for example, students who are going into medical and then they find out they need to draw blood and they can't stand to draw blood, they're immediately going to get scared and maybe drop out.
Absolutely.
Oh, I didn't realize that we had to do this and that. So I think it's important, to also be realistic in understanding the quote-unquote product of the curriculum. It's key. And that way then you can keep painting pictures based on that. This is where the baton's passed then to faculty members. And I think that another key, I think most admissions reps, I think, have questionnaires. What if the faculty and staff, unless there's some form of privacy, why wouldn't we let faculty and staff know about these students from a point of view? They're first in their family, they have 2 children. What I think some of that information it's like passed on, to the faculty that then could understand that student better and know what to expect.
And I think that's something that we will probably have to delve into another episode, because I think the more that your faculty understands the students that they're servicing, the better they can be prepared to give them an outstanding educational opportunity. One of the things I wanted to tap into is, and part of my function is going to campuses. Of course, we provide marketing, but we also support admissions. And when I'm talking to some admissions people at certain institutions, one of the things that's been interesting to me is I'll ask them, how much do you believe in your school and their school's mission? And some of them really hesitate in the way they respond. You can tell that they have some concerns. You can tell that they're not 100% convinced that the educational opportunity that their school is giving to the prospective students is not up to par. And they just don't feel as invested as they should. How do we get an admissions professional to perform in an environment in which they don't have institutional buy-in? Is it even possible for someone to be effective in the admissions role if they don't buy into what's going on at the school?
I'm going to say no. That, first of all, subconsciously, we communicate a lot non-verbally.
Right.
And the subconscious of another person can automatically pick up whether you believe, that's the word, in what you're doing, or you believe in this institution.
Right.
Belief is in research is becoming more and more important, because believing is key. If you don't believe, then nothing really changes. And so the idea well, let me ask you this question.
Sure.
Or make this comment. Let's say when I owned my schools, I can tell you that my daughters, my nieces, they all graduated from my college here in South Florida.
Wow.
I bring that up sometimes to people, and they don't say it, but they might put their head down. And I say, "Would you send your son or daughter here?" And they just kind of like, "I don't know." Well, that's a dead giveaway, isn't it?
Correct.
So how do we get that belief system? I think a lot of it, Rich, is also understanding the mission, the vision. What are career colleges per se? What we do, we change lives. We help people. Now, not everybody has the patience for that,
right?
And not everybody's cut of that mold.
Right.
And you could get the best quote-unquote salesperson in the world. They'll never work in admissions.
And you know, it's interesting to your point that I just think that a lot of times when there's situations do happen when you don't see that buy-in from the admissions professional, it's not necessarily because it's not happening in the school. But we've talked about this in the past. When you're operating in silos and they're not totally abreast of what's actually going on in the classroom, they don't know about the fantastic outcomes, if they are the fantastic outcomes at that institution. They tend to hear, because one of the things I remember even starting out as an admissions person is students were very vocal when something went wrong. And so what they hear all the time is what went wrong, or the teacher that didn't do that, or this, or they're spreading a rumor about something that's really not indicative of the whole school. That becomes reality to them. And don't you think, or do you think, that some of the opportunities to increase admissions buy-in is by increasing the communication throughout the whole academy?
Absolutely. I think the more meetings you have between admissions and faculty, faculty being the deliverers of this, but also the staff, because you've got to take into account financial aid, you've got to take out account career placement. All of them have to have the same picture, I believe, of just what this institution's about. And I've been around this industry so long that I can tell you, schools I go into, I can tell immediately if they're on the same page or not. And I think a big part of it is just the idea of taking the time to make sure that these admissions folks believe in what they do. How do you tell that? Well, first of all, it's a gut thing, you know. You kind of know, and you can also tell, I believe, by enrollments. Who, you know, I can tell you right now, the representatives that have the greatest enrollments have a big heart. They care. They go out of their way for the students. They want to support them. They help paint the picture, and they do as much as they can to make sure all the staff, they're all on the same page with what this mission, vision, what we do here. That's such a noble purpose.
Yeah, and I can't stress enough, and I hope a lot of the people that are watching really take the time to really speak to their admissions team and speak to other members of their staff. Do you have that continuum of a consistent painted picture? Does everyone understand what everyone else is doing? Do your admissions professionals truly understand and know what's going on in the classroom, or are they relying on anecdotal feedback from other students to really show them what it is? And you know, once again, we talk about product knowledge versus product understanding. When they look at that catalog and see the different courses, do they understand how these courses lead to career preparedness and employability for the students that they service?
Absolutely.
We have been having a very robust discussion about the psychology of admissions. Now, we've talked a lot about the actual admissions representative or admissions professional, and you know, attitude reflects leadership. So, considering some of the issues that we've talked about, what are some of the key traits you think it is that are necessary to properly manage and motivate admissions professionals in today's higher education landscape?
Yes, I think you know, first of all, the relationship is important. You know, and the idea of being able to have admissions people not only understand the programs or what you might call the product, but to understand the vision and the mission of changing lives. One student at a time. It's different in, I believe, our sector. I think it's different because we have been doing this for years. I mean, as far as a family atmosphere, we care, whatever, okay? But if the admissions people don't believe in that, or think, you know, well, I'm just gonna roll another one and go home today, and you know, it's important, I think, too, that we keep admissions representatives motivated. So one of the things, you know, who motivates the motivator? One of the things they say on airlines is that if you're traveling, you know, with an elderly person or a small child, in case of an emergency, oxygen masks will fall. First, put the oxygen mask on yourself. Now, I mean, if you're traveling with your children and they're small, I think the natural tendency is to, you know, help them. However, you put it on yourself first because if you pass out, who's going to take care of them and who's going to take care of you? And so you have a team of admissions people that need the oxygen mask. They need to personally develop themselves, professionally develop themselves,
right.
Feel a real pride about what they do, changing lives. They need to keep motivated. Another big thing I found in all research out there, even with large companies that we work with at the Pacific Institute, large Fortune 50 companies, they say that the number one, what employees are looking for is a family type environment.
Correct.
Where they feel like I can trust you, you're my brother, you're my sister, we work as a team. They love going to work.
Right.
Okay. That type of culture can be created with the right techniques.
Right.
And at the same time, to me, the front line is always the admissions representatives, because they're the Marines. They're the first ones in. They're the ones that help get things moving.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's another layer in terms of management of admissions professionals that, we've talked a lot about some of the qualitative things that help to influence or move the needle with performance from the admissions team. However, I think, some of your conversion statistics are performance indicators, and it's almost like a thermometer. When it's over 98.6 degrees, that means, you have a fever and you have to do something about it. And when you look at some of your conversion data, it's a good indicator to that management professional in the admissions person that, hey, this person might need some help here, this person might need some help there. One of the key conversions that I see has been challenged in the last few years that I've been looking at this are some of the interview rates and those interviews becoming enrollments. And one of the things that I theorize is that because we've come to evolve into a more digital landscape where we communicate by text, email, and other non-verbal ways, the art of conversation has been lost in a lot of the admissions professionals. So they might be able to reach the person on digital platforms to get them in to come into the interview, but then now when they're forced to have an actual one-on-one interaction, that's where some of them suffer. How are institutions and admissions managers and management, how should they attack that reality that maybe some of their people need some help with the art of conversation?
I think that's a very valid point. One of the things we know is the impact of a presentation. Okay, I don't know whether you know this, but 55% of the impact is visual. In other words, what they see. Who they see, who we're talking to. Something like 38% is vocal. The tone of your voice is very important. Very important. Only 7% are the words, the actual written words, or what we call the verbal. Now, so if you think about it, 55 and 38 is 93. 93% of the impact of a presentation, if you're going to connect with me, is what I see and the tone of your voice. It's only 7% the material. Because, for example, student comes in, I could give them a catalog and say, here, go home and read it. That's only 7% of the impact. So why I bring that up is because I think everything's important with an admissions. I think how they're seated, how they greet people, their body language, whether they're welcoming or not, or sit there with their arms closed, all those things affect the subconscious. So a student leaves and they don't come back. Call a no-show, maybe, and they don't even know why. Okay, maybe it was because everything matters. So they walk into the front door and they see a mess in the reception area. Okay, I always call the receptionist the director of first impressions. Okay,
absolutely,
because you form a first impression in like the first 2 to 5 seconds. If they're sitting there too long and they're being ignored, so to speak, not consciously, but people are walking by, so they're already in their subconscious going click, 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 click. This place isn't right for me. I don't feel like I belong here. They're already scared anyway. Think about how many calls it took to get them in there. Then they walk around and our teachers welcoming. I've been to a school where the admissions rep would walk around with a teacher, or with a student, I should say, and the teacher would close the door. Right in front of them. So all of that's so key. First impressions.
So, I think, based on what we've discussed today on the psychology of admissions, first of all, I'm so happy that we had this conversation, especially given your background, Dr. Pace. And I definitely encourage everyone that's working with the team, visit the Pacific Institute Education Initiative, find out about Dr. Joe Pace, have him come to your campus and help you out. These are very important conversations we're having. And the bottom line is we respect the student journey. And we're hoping that this higher ed conversation series is helping you as institutional leaders and owners really have some good conversation with the people on your staff and in your institution. And once again, please visit us at www.focusonstudents.com and share some student stories. Once again, we want to help all of the people in our sector become better schools. Thank you so much for joining us for Setting the Pace. I'm Richard McCulloch, president of Tribeca. Dr. Joe Pace.
Pleasure as always.
Always, my friend. Take care. See y'all soon.